Christian apologists, by definition, are defenders of the faith, but too often their defense isn't about reasoned argument or robust evidence. It's about rhetorical sleight of hand, emotional manipulation, and a calculated disregard for inconvenient truths. My goal today isn't just to point fingers, but to equip you with the mental toolkit to spot these tactics, protect your own mind, and perhaps help others navigate the labyrinth of belief they might be trapped in. Imagine a high-stakes debate. On one side, you have someone presenting verifiable facts, historical context, and scientific consensus. On the other, you have someone weaving an intricate tapestry of anecdotes, selective quotes, and appeals to emotion, all designed to make a predetermined conclusion seem inevitable. Welcome to the world of Christian apologetics. Their primary goal, let's be clear, isn't to seek truth wherever it may lead. It's to defend a pre-existing belief system, often at all costs. This fundamental bias dictates their methodology. They start with the answer, Christianity is true, and then work backward, cherry-picking information, twisting arguments, and dismissing anything that contradicts their narrative. One of their go-to moves is the straw man fallacy. They misrepresent an opposing viewpoint, often science or atheism, into a caricatured, easily refutable version. For instance, they might claim evolution says humans came from monkeys. It doesn't, we share a common ancestor. Or that atheists believe nothing created everything. We don't, we simply state we don't know how it began, or that the current scientific models don't require supernatural intervention. They then triumphantly dismantle the straw man, leaving their audience thinking they've discredited the real argument. Then there's the argument from ignorance, often cloaked as a God of the gaps argument. Science can't fully explain consciousness, therefore God did it. We don't know exactly what caused the Big Bang, therefore God did it. This isn't evidence, it's a surrender of intellectual curiosity, plugging a divine placeholder into every current scientific frontier. As human knowledge expands, the gaps for God shrink, forcing apologists to retreat further into ever smaller corners of the unknown. And let's not forget the emotional appeals. Fear is a potent weapon. The fear of hell, of eternal damnation, of being lost or without purpose. This primal terror is skillfully exploited to short-circuit critical thinking. You must believe, or else. Coupled with this is the appeal to desire, the promise of eternal life, divine love, and cosmic purpose. Who wouldn't want those things? Apologists present these as exclusive benefits of their belief system, dangling them like carrots while wielding the stick of eternal punishment. It's effective, but it's manipulative, bypassing the intellect entirety and going straight for the limbic system. Many an apologist will confidently present the Bible as an accurate historical document, a divinely inspired record of events as they unfolded. They point to archaeological finds that seem to corroborate minor details, then leap to conclusions about major narratives. But when you look closely, the cracks begin to show, and they are Grand Canyon size. Take the Exodus story, for example, a foundational narrative for both Judaism and Christianity, detailing millions of slaves escaping Egypt, wandering the desert for 40 years, and conquering Canaan. Where is the archaeological evidence for this massive migration? Where are the remains of those millions, their campsites, their pottery, their passage through the desert? Virtually none. What is found often contradicts the biblical timeline and narrative. Egyptologists and archaeologists, including those who are themselves religious, largely conclude there's no evidence for a mass exodus as described in the Bible. Apologists will then pivot, arguing the evidence is still out there, or that we simply haven't found it yet, or that God miraculously made it disappear, conveniently, as always. The entire global flood narrative is another prime example. Apologists will point to geological features and claim they are evidence of a global deluge. Yet modern geology, a science built on centuries of observation and data, comprehensively disproves a global flood within the last few thousand years. The fossil record, stratigraphy, the layering of rocks, plate tectonics, ice core samples, and vast evidence of ancient civilizations existing continuously through the supposed flood period all render the Noah's Ark story utterly implausible as a literal historical event. A single global flood would create a uniform geological layer across the Earth. Instead, we see distinct layered evidence of millions of years of gradual geological processes. Apologists also frequently rely on the minimal facts argument for the resurrection of Jesus, twisting scholarly consensus on certain points to support an unprovable miracle. They'll cite that most scholars agree Jesus existed, or that his followers believed he resurrected, then jump to, therefore he resurrected. This is a monumental non sequitur. Scholars agree on many historical figures and the beliefs of their followers. This does not mean the miraculous claims surrounding them are factual. It confuses belief about an event with the event actually happening. So next we're on to science versus the supernatural, where apologetics collides with reality. And this is where apologetics often perform their most spectacular intellectual gymnastics. Faced with overwhelming scientific consensus that directly contradicts biblical literalism, they either deny, distort, or dismiss. Let's start with evolutionary biology. The evidence for evolution from genetics, the fossil record, comparative anatomy, embryology, and biogeography is staggering and interconnected. It's not just a theory. It's a foundational scientific principle with predictive power and mountains of empirical support. Yet, apologists often cling to creationism or intelligent design, which are not scientific theories but attempts to package religious belief in scientific sounding language. They distort concepts like irreducible complexity, which has been debunked repeatedly by biological discovery, or point to missing links, a concept that misunderstands the nature of transitional fossils, of which we have many. They ignore the overwhelming genetic evidence that shows shared ancestry between all life forms, including humans and other primates. The very existence of vestigial organs, ancient retroviruses embedded in our DNA, and the imperfect, jury-rigged nature of biological systems screams evolution, not intelligent design. Then there's cosmology, the Big Bang Theory, supported by cosmic microwave background radiation, the expansion of the universe, and the abundance of light elements, describes a universe that came into existence billions of years ago. Apologists often misuse the Big Bang as proof of a creator. God snapped his fingers. But the theory itself deals with the expansion of the universe from an extremely hot, dense state, not its ultimate origin in a theological sense. Furthermore, the age of the universe, around 13.8 billion years, and the Earth, around 4.5 billion years, directly contradicts the young Earth creationist timeline preferred by many biblical literalists who calculate Earth's age in the thousands of years. They resort to absurd claims about light speed changing or the appearance of age rather than accepting the robust scientific evidence. Geology, as mentioned, utterly dismantles the global flood. Physics shows us a universe governed by consistent, predictable laws. Laws that make miracles, defined as a suspension or violation of these laws, fundamentally problematic. The conservation of energy, principles of thermodynamics, and basic causality are not casually set aside. A universe where miracles were common would be utterly chaotic and unrecognizable. A universe where they just happen for specific religious figures at specific times without leaving an empirical trace is frankly unbelievable. And what about neuroscience? Apologists often rely on the concept of an immaterial soul, a separate entity that inhabits the body and is the seat of consciousness, morality, and identity. Yet, neuroscience increasingly demonstrates that consciousness, personality, memory, and cognitive abilities are direct products of brain activity. Damage to specific brain regions can alter personality, erase memories, or impair moral judgment. Neurological conditions like Alzheimer's or dementia progressively erode what we consider self. If the soul were truly separate and immaterial, why would it be so intricately dependent on the physical brain? Where is the empirical evidence for this soul? It simply doesn't exist outside of theological assertion. Our understanding of the brain is sophisticated enough to see that claims of immaterial soul are increasingly superfluous to explaining human experience. Beyond the intellectual gymnastics, there's a profound human cost to believing the narratives spun by apologists. For those caught in the system, the psychological impact can be devastating, such as cognitive dissonance. This is the mental discomfort experienced by a person who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. When faced with scientific or logical arguments that contradict their faith, believers are often taught to double down, to have faith, or to reinterpret facts rather than confront the painful dissonance. This creates an internal battle that can be exhausting, leading to anxiety and a profound sense of unease. Over time, it can lead to suppressing critical thought altogether, choosing comfort over truth. Fear-based control and guilt is the constant threat of eternal punishment or divine disapproval, which creates an environment of pervasive fear. This fear can dictate life choices, stifling personal freedom and genuine self-discovery. Guilt, often leveraged by apologists to enforce obedience, can become a constant companion, leading to feelings of unworthiness, shame, and a broken self-image. It also creates suppression of critical thinking. Apologetics, at its core, teaches people to distrust their own reasoning if it leads away from the prescribed belief. Questions are often framed as satanic temptations or tests of faith. This trains individuals to shut down their innate skepticism, a crucial tool for navigating the world. The inability to critically evaluate information extends beyond religion, potentially impacting their ability to make reasoned decisions in all areas of life. There is an erosion of autonomy and self-trust. When an external authority, such as God, the Bible, church leaders, apologists, becomes the ultimate arbiter of truth and morality, personal autonomy diminishes. Individuals learn to outsource their decision-making and moral compass, making it incredibly difficult to trust their own judgments, intuition, or lived experience, especially if it deviates from the prescribed path. Social isolation and identity crisis. For those who eventually question or leave the faith after internalizing apologists' arguments, the journey can be incredibly lonely. Their social networks are often entirely within the religious community, leading to isolation if they deconstruct. The very identity they built around their faith can shatter, requiring a painful and often traumatic rebuilding process. So how do we arm ourselves against these sophisticated, often well-meaning but ultimately harmful tactics? Master logical fallacies. Learn the basic logical fallacies. Once you can identify straw men, ad hominems, arguments from authority without actual expertise, and red herrings, you'll see them everywhere, not just in religious debates. This is your mental shield. There are countless free resources online. Embrace skepticism and critical thinking. It's okay to say, I don't know, and to demand evidence for extraordinary claims. Don't be afraid to question. True understanding comes from rigorous inquiry, not blind acceptance. Always ask, what's the evidence for that claim? Is there an alternative explanation? And what assumptions are being made? Seek out diverse sources of information. Don't rely solely on information vetted by those with a vested interest in a particular outcome. Read books and articles by historians, scientists, and philosophers outside of religious apologetics. Listen to ex-believers, secular scholars, and people from different backgrounds. A broad intellectual diet strengthens your mind. Understand the scientific method. Appreciate that science isn't just a collection of facts, but a process of inquiry, testing, and provisional conclusions based on observable evidence. Understand that scientific theories are robust, evidence-based explanations, not mere guesses. This understanding inoculates you against misrepresentations of science. Trust your gut and then verify. If something sounds too good to be true, or if an argument feels like it's trying to trick you, it probably is. Your intuition is a good starting point, but always back it up with fact-checking and critical analysis. Build a secular community. Deconstructing can be isolating. Connect with other atheists, ex-Christians, and skeptics online and in person. Sharing experiences, discussing ideas, and finding support from those who understand can be incredibly validating and empowering. The road ahead: clarity, compassion, and courage. Deconstructing deeply held beliefs, especially those reinforced by powerful apologetic narratives, is a journey of courage. It takes guts to look at the world with fresh eyes, to admit you might have been wrong, and to step into the vast, beautiful unknown without the comforting hand of dogma. But let me tell you, the view from the other side is breathtaking. It's a world where truth is pursued for its own sake, where compassion flows from empathy rather than commandment, and where purpose is built by you, for you, not dictated from above. It's a world where the human mind, unfettered, can explore the universe with genuine wonder, embracing the mysteries we haven't yet solved without resorting to supernatural shortcuts. This isn't just about winning arguments. It's about reclaiming your mind, your autonomy, and your ability to engage with the world based on reason and evidence. It's about empowering yourself and others to discern truth from manipulation, to foster genuine curiosity, and to live authentically. Now, I want to hear from you. What are some of the most frustrating or manipulative apologetic arguments you've encountered? How did you personally begin to see through these tactics? And what advice would you give to someone who is just starting to question? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's build a stronger, more resilient community together. This is Kim McPhail of the Kim McPhail Podcast, and if this resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. And if you're looking for more content that delves into skepticism, deconstruction, and evidence-based thinking, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to shine a light on the truth wherever it may lead. Thanks for watching. I look forward to the next time we talk, and bye.